Celeste Schreier, Director of Global Retail Marketing at Summer Fridays. Welcome to Marketing Girly.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to chat through your career journey. Celeste has worked at lots of beauty brands that you probably know.
Just a few.
Just a few. She's worked at Fresh, Benefit Cosmetics,
Mm-hmm.
Tatcha, which Tatcha's one of my favorites,
Yep.
Biosense, and obviously is now over at Summer Fridays. So you've got quite the career journey,
Yes.
which I'm excited to jump into. But before we get into all of that, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Celeste, Director of Global Retail Marketing at Summer Fridays. Right now, I oversee basically any sort of marketing that we do in stores across the world. So I am touching Sephora North America, which includes the US and Canada. I also work on Revolve, which is a smaller business for us, but still some online pulses there. Space NK, Sephora UK, and Cult Beauty in the UK.
Oh my gosh.
And then I've just launched 800 doors across Europe, Sephora Europe in March of this year. And then also Sephora Middle East and Mecca in Australia. So quite a lot of retailers
Yes.
to sort of, work on. But it's really exciting. My team works on anything from, our in-store merchandising, from what you look at when you walk into a Sephora. You'll see our fixture. There's a lot of thought that goes into that. It may just look, like a couple different, products here and there, some graphics, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. Digital campaigns. So if you're, ever scrolling TikTok or Instagram and you see a Summer Fridays ad that's driving to Sephora, that's my team. We also work on sampling programs. So if you're checking out at Sephora and you're looking in the rewards bazaar and you see any sort of Summer Fridays products there, we've programmed those all very meticulously. And then anything that has to do with retailer events. So I think the biggest, most fun activation I could probably talk about from this year is we launched our first Sephora Times Square atrium takeover. So if you've ever been to the Sephora in Times Square, you walk in and there's sort of this big branded space. They let different brands take it over every 6 weeks or so. And so we did our first one at Summer Fridays in February this year. So any sort of like retailer event as well is what my team works on. So.
Okay, I've got lots of follow-up questions.
Yes, I know. That was a lot. Sorry.
That's so fun. Okay. Yeah. I feel like, well, obviously you telling me that just reminds me why I love the podcast Marketing Girly, of just showing positions and career paths that you might not even realize exist. Like a lot of us might shop Summer Fridays in Sephora, but we might not realize that there's so much thought that goes behind our experience of like walking up to the little station and picking our product, or even knowing what products to buy there. But your role gets to touch on that, so I'm excited to dive into it. Let's start backward. Let's talk with the pop, or that is it called a pop-up? Is that how you would call it? That with Sephora takeover?
You could call it store takeover.
Store takeover. Okay, let's start there. Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so we had the atrium at Sephora Times Square from February to April, and because February was a big lip moment for us, we not only launched 4 new shades of Dream Lip Oil in January this year, but in February we brought back our limited edition birthday cake
I
to
love
celebrate
the birthday cake.
I know, it's great. It's really great. So we wanted to make the atrium, because it was sort of our first time, we definitely wanted to have sort of this pink fun lip moment, but also be centered in jet lag, because at the core of Summer Fridays is the jet lag collection. So when thinking about this atrium space, we wanted to bring to life not only the blue that we find to be kind of the Summer Fridays core blue, but also like this fun pop of pink moment, and then sort of have this like consumer journey where they're walking through and experiencing the brand and then getting some sort of takeaway. So at Summer Fridays, we love photo booths. So a photo booth moment is very big for the brand. So we were able to incorporate a photo booth actually in the atrium itself. So customers could come in, it would print their little strip. It said Summer Fridays on it. It was free. So, it was like fun for them to be able to sort of interact with us that way. But it really kind of like told a story. So you walk in and it was like the world of jet lag. So that was the first thing you saw. We had this beautiful digital screen in the back with clouds that were kind of moving to kind of sort of create a little bit of movement within the space. It was a splash of blue, so you're seeing kind of jet lag everywhere with some really beautiful imagery that our team had shot earlier last year. And then the lip moment on the right side of the atrium, brought to life not only the Dream Lip Oils that we were celebrating, but also the core of our brand, which is Lip Butter Balm. And so we had all the shades there, really fun swatch imagery on the wall, model imagery, just really kind of bringing this moment to life, and lots of mirror moments. We love a mirror. So, we love when our customers kind of interact with us and take photos. And, we always put our brand on the mirror. So it's important that, the brand is included. And then, yeah, they could walk over to all the way on the far left was where the photo booth was, and, get their photo moment. And yeah, that was the experience. And, it was really great to do that, not only because it was the first time we've ever done it, but also because Times Square Sephora is so interesting. It's obviously not a ton of New Yorkers that shop there. You're really getting a lot of brand awareness from travelers, not only from outside of the U.S., but also kind of more of the middle of the country as well. So it was really good brand awareness for us. And it was also a month before we launched in Europe. And you do have a lot of Europeans that roll through there.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a good, and I don't have any data or anything on what that looked like in terms of like people, wandering in and seeing us, and then seeing us launch in Europe later, and kind of, drawing the two together. But it was something that we had hoped would sort of like bring a little bit of brand awareness when they first see it, and then they see us roll out across Europe, and it's kind of like, okay, yes, I saw that brand before, and like so excited that it's finally available in Europe. So
yeah, I never thought about that location being such a great place to touch across America and even outside of America, because you're right, when New Yorkers probably aren't hanging out in Times Square too.
And New Yorkers know who we are. I mean, for the most part, we do a lot of pop-ups and activations in New York. So I would say brand awareness there is likely very high. But, towards the middle of the country, or, from anywhere from any countries that outside of the U.S. that we're not in yet, that's a really great way for us to sort of gain that awareness, and people seeing us and being like, wow, this is beautiful. And what is this brand?
Yeah. Well, I also love how you mentioned for this takeover, you focused on storytelling, and you wanted that to feel like part of the experience. How, when you're kind of maybe storyboarding an idea like this, you're starting to plan it, how do you incorporate storytelling into a physical experience? Because I feel like we might think of that in other areas of marketing, but we might not really think of that in an experiential piece.
Totally.
So what does that look like?
So it's definitely tricky, because you can't write a novel on the wall about the brand. That's just it's not realistic, you know? So what we really tried to do was like bring the customers into the world of Summer Fridays. So like I said, we had this middle portion that was focused on jet lag, and you had the movement of the clouds and the blue from the products, the blue on the walls, the really beautiful imagery. And on each sort of like podium that we had, where all the product displays were, we had like soothe, hydrate, replenish, which are, all keywords that we use with the jet lag collection, and, what we kind of ground ourselves in when it comes to key benefits for our customers to sort of take away. So it's more of just like, it's not necessarily like reading words. It's more of just like the experience and the feeling that you get when you're in there. And it's sort of like, okay, you're moving through the jet lag collection and, looking at all the different products that are really hydration focused. And then, okay, we're moving over to this pink moment where there's, lots of lip products and the lip butter balms and Dream Lip Oil. And then moving over to the photo booth, which is kind of like our interactive moment. And, as a brand, we're very community oriented. So we always like to do something for the community. And that was sort of like their moment to kind of interact.
Okay, how fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. Yes, it was fun.
Now, I know you mentioned, so essentially your role is kind of focused in the marketing realm, but for the, would you call it like the retail arms? Like for, like you mentioned, the different like Sephora, Revolve.
Yep.
Okay, so one thing I'm curious about with Summer Fridays, like I am obsessed with the lip butter balm. Me and my girlfriends, like we go through them like crazy. I know the jet lag mask you're also very well known for at Summer Fridays. So what is your approach to introducing people to the other products that you guys have? Because I know that there are so many other products that are amazing, but some of us might know Summer Fridays for these kind of like hero products that have gone viral that we know and love. So how is that part of, I'm not sure if it is, but if it's part of your marketing strategy to kind of introduce people to these other great products that you have?
So I would say within the retail space, it's definitely tricky, because people are kind of a lot of times coming in and grabbing what they want to grab, and then they're leaving. And so a lot of what my team is sort of focused on is, if they're coming up to our fixture, how can we grab them into another product? Is it through a before and after photo to show what happens to your skin when you use a certain product? Or is it, a graphic that kind of shows like side by side explaining what our different moisturizers are, like how can we sort of get them in and have them be interested in it. And so it's tricky because, we've tried a lot of different methods, and I would say the shopping piece is definitely the trickiest, just because, a lot of times people just want to grab something and go and not really spend the time to learn. But we do try to guide them through, like, okay, if you're walking up to our gondola in Sephora, we have our skincare on the left side and lip on the right. And how can we sort of like get those lip customers, which are, our biggest group of shoppers, over to the skin side. And, the way we do it is we've done a couple of different methods. So one, it's also just like the graphics we have on shelf. For example, we just launched our Gentle Reset Daily Exfoliating Pads, which are incredible. It's actually my new favorite Summer Fridays product. Yeah, they're amazing.
I'll have to try them.
They're amazing. So, we have a really compelling before and after photo on the shelf that shows like, after you use it, I think it's maybe a 2 or 3 week photo, but the person's skin looks amazing. So it really makes you kind of want to buy it and experience that for yourself. But I would say another great way to sort of get customers to other products is sampling, and the sampling programs that we build take so much time and so much thought, but we want to get as many of our products into as many hands as possible. I mean, that's how you trial things, and you kind of get to trial it without the commitment of actually purchasing, and you try it and you like it. And it's like, okay, now I feel like I want to buy it. And then digital ads are also huge too. So whenever we do digital campaigns driving to Sephora, we always make sure to incorporate videos that are user generated. So we have, content creators create videos of them applying products to their face, kind of showing, what it looks like after. And, we have so many beautiful products with such beautiful textures that it's really enticing. And we do find that those videos typically perform the best, actually, and have the highest ROI when people are sort of shopping online too.
That's really interesting because I feel like, especially in beauty, I think we've started to see this shift from like very high production shots of the products to really like leaning more into that UGC type of content. So I guess you kind of answered the question that that's kind of performing better for you guys as well.
Yeah. We definitely see that across when we do like specific digital campaigns driving to Sephora, that those types of videos across TikTok, Instagram, wherever they may be, typically do perform the highest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, so this is, I guess, a timely conversation because last night I was in Sephora. I had some time in between dinner with my family and meeting a friend for drinks. And obviously, at the time of this recording, it's the Sephora sale. So great time to shop at Sephora. And I was kind of walking through all the different aisles. Actually did stop by Summer Fridays to get the sunscreen. I am obsessed.
Shade drops?
Yes. And I loved looking at all the different gondolas. Like, I thought it was so interesting. And now that I get to have more beauty marketing guests on the podcast, I feel like I've just been a bit more curious and things like that. So is there anything that you can share of like what goes into building a gondola like that? Because again, as a normal consumer, we might just go and shop from these beauty brands that we love, but what goes into deciding what that's going to look like, what are the colors going to be, what like features are they going to have? I'm sure there's like a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of thought and a lot of time and careful sort of attention to detail, if you will. One, you just want to make sure that when your customer is shopping at Sephora, they see your fixture and they don't have to concentrate too hard to figure out what brand it is. So you just want to make sure, like, however you're bringing to life your products in store is what you look like across social, digital, out of home, anything like that. It all feels really cohesive. So for us, bringing the blue to life is really what felt kind of the priority, is like this big splash of blue that sort of, feels light. It feels bright. You're standing there and like the lights at Sephora are like really crazy to begin with. It's very bright. But when you're standing in front of the gondola, it makes you feel sort of like this moment of like, okay, you can breathe a little bit because it's just like light and airy. So there's definitely, that piece of like the color aspect. And then when it comes to our graphics, we want to make sure, we're also bringing the brand to life through beautiful texture shots. Sometimes we have model shots, we have before and after photos, and making sure, those specific graphics are speaking to why you should buy the product. So that's a key piece. Also, to the way products are displayed, it's all trial and error. We went through a big visual merchandising overhaul about a year ago this time. So what you're seeing in Sephora now just launched about a year ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we had smaller fixtures before. They looked a little bit different. We did sort of the big overhaul on them, and we learned a lot. So we learned that, when we had our old fixtures, the lip butter balms were standing up. They were getting knocked over all the time. They're always, laying on the ground. It was basically the lip butter balm graveyard. And so we learned, it's like that's not the best way because customers are reaching back to get back stock and sort of get their products. So what we did, in this specific example is we decided to lay them down. So they're laying right now in a wave acrylic where they're propped up a little bit, but it gives the customer an opportunity to pull it out. They can test it, try it, and put it down. And it's not this like really messy experience that they're all falling over. It doesn't disturb the one next to it when the other one is pulled out and put back in.
That's so interesting because I would never even
thought
about that.
It's little things, but it's just like it makes a big difference when you walk up to a fixture that's a little bit messy, whenever you're shopping in Sephora. It kind of makes you like not want to shop there. You're like, this looks like a mess. I don't want to dig through this, to find what I'm looking for. So
so interesting. Now I know when things are digital, like if you have a call to action on a website, for example, we can A/B test things. Do you guys ever A/B test in store, or is that usually part of like the research that goes into it before? If you're going to try like, oh, what if we have this messaging on this gondola in this location? Is it going to perform better if we have a different messaging and you guys try it in different cities, or not so much?
Nah, there's no really way to test it, unfortunately, but we're always evolving. And, we have a really amazing team. They're called our field team. And so we have about... actually don't know how many we're at this point, but there's quite a few of them that live in different parts of the U.S. and go to stores and sell for us because Sephora is traditionally an unassisted environment, which is why your visual merchandising has to work so hard for you. But if you're able to hire these sort of sales team members, they really do help push the product. So we're always getting feedback from them on like, this messaging is working. The customer comes in and asks for this and they're looking for this type of moisturizer. And like, is there any way to speak to this? Or, the way you guys did this on the fixture just isn't working. Like, let's think of something else. And it's really great to have that feedback because they're kind of our eyes and ears on the ground. Because, we'll be working on something and it looks great to us and it feels great. And we do the prototype testing and, it works out that way. But then after a little bit of wear and tear in stores, sometimes things don't always, translate. So it's good to have that constant on the ground feedback where we can always evaluate and adjust.
The other thing that I thought was so interesting that you shared was sampling. That's also something that I feel like us as consumers experience all the time, whether we're checking out at Sephora and we get to pick the samples or whether we racked up our points and we get to pick what we want. So anything you can share on like what goes into deciding either the products or what that's going to look like in terms of sampling?
Yeah. So when we start planning out the sampling programs for New Year's, we're always thinking about newness is one. So what are we pulsing out from a newness perspective? And then also core. So we always want to be have this always, I guess we call it an always on strategy with jet lag. So making sure, we're pulsing out newness, but also getting jet lag in there too. So making sure the jet lag mask is always available, dehydration serum, the eye serum, the whole collection. So we look at different programs. So certain programs at Sephora require different things, like, in terms of sizing. Sometimes some of them require like the little sachets that you get that are just like a one-time use. Some programs are the little bit bigger samples that will give you maybe 3 to 4 days worth of product. So we're kind of always looking at that and like what we want to kind of prioritize for like the sachets and then also the larger sample sizes. Sachets will go out to a lot more people because you're just producing more of them. And then the sample sizes will be a little bit more bespoke programs, if you will. So like redeeming your points for X, Y, and Z. And then there's also the rewards bazaar opportunities as well. So we do, special rewards kits. Like if you are somebody with 5,000 points, you can get, full size product as well. So, we're making sure we're available to like all tiers of customers. And then lastly too, in this year, actually 2025, we were the Sephora birthday gift. So as a Sephora
Aw.
shopper, you're probably aware that you get a birthday gift
Yeah.
on your birthday, and you get to choose between, I think it's typically about 3 gifts, one makeup, one hair, one skincare set. And so we were the birthday gift set this year. And it's a really big deal to be included in that program because you're getting so much exposure, and they have good data around customers that actually come back to the brand and buy one of the products in the set.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
this is honestly so cool that you're sharing all of this,
Yeah.
just because I feel like, again, so many of probably the marketing girly listening probably shop at Sephora, but you
Yeah.
never really think about all these things that go into your experience with the
Yeah.
brands. And even you're naming all these different types of samples, like, oh my gosh, that's probably so much work that goes into
Yes,
each
it's
and
a lot of
every
work.
one of them. Like, that's crazy. I never
Yeah.
really thought about it that way. That
Yeah.
you mentioned the birthday gift,
Yeah.
there's the points, there's different levels of
Yes.
points,
Yeah.
there's the little the cachet, there's like all of these
Yeah.
different things. And I'm sure you're going, that's just interesting.
Yeah, and
So
they
crazy.
have different programs too per sometimes they have like a quarterly special birthday gift for like Rouge customers. They do
Mhm.
certain things for different tiers too. So it changes every quarter pretty much, or
Mhm.
every month they have something different.
And then I know you mentioned, I know obviously digital's part of your role, but
Mhm.
obviously stuff with in-store I'm sure is a bit more difficult to track. And I know lots of the marketing girlies that I chat with, KPIs are really important, tracking
Yes.
metrics. If you're
Mhm.
spending money, are we making money?
Yeah.
All of those good things. Is that, I know you mentioned it can be more difficult in store, but kind of how do you navigate that? Or does Sephora give you good insight on things? Because I'm
Yes.
sure that you want to be like exactly tracking, okay, we're going to
Totally.
spend this much money on samples. Is that having an impact on our brand?
Yeah, and Sephora as a retailer is a great partner. They give us so much data, which is, it's amazing, and helps us see certain things. So we are able to track, certain things. For example, like when we do special front of store animations, which we actually just wrapped on one, which we had our gentle reset in the window of all the
Mhm.
Sephoras
There's like a
across
whole
the
nother thing I
US.
didn't even think about too. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, it just
the
keeps getting
secondary
longer.
exposures. Yes, that's another. Sorry, sometimes my team, we work on so many things that I just, sometimes it's hard for me to name them
Oh
all.
my goodness.
But yeah, secondary placements in stores. So if you walk into a Sephora and you see a Summer Fridays table at the front of the store, we work
Mhm.
on that as well. And so we're able to see, if we're putting certain products on the table because it's available front of store, are we seeing a lift on those products during that time period,
Mhm.
which is great to see. We also can track, when people redeem certain samples, are they coming back to the brand, which is great. And we can only, obviously track people that are part of Sephora's loyalty program. But it helps us, understand, okay, this worked and, maybe this didn't work. And I think, the biggest thing that we can do with in-store specific items is just tracking if we're doing something new for a certain product, whether it be, a core product or something net new. We can track the sales and see if there's any lift from it.
Yeah.
So if we're seeing a lift, that's like, okay, something, I mean, you never know if there's a direct correlation, but it's oftentimes, okay, that seems to be working.
Mhm.
What can we do to sort of like further that lift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fun job, because
Yeah.
you're really getting to combine, like, you're obviously doing marketing, but you have that physical component, which I'm
Yeah.
sure is so fun to get to see those
It
things come
is.
to life or go experience something that you helped design in person.
Yes, it's really, really rewarding. I will say it's like that. And then also when we've done some new market launches all over the world. So since I've started at Summer Fridays, we have launched at Sephora UK. We've launched Sephora Europe this year. And then we also launched Sephora Middle East last year. And so just going to the markets and kind of seeing the work that was just on a computer screen at one point is
Yeah.
so rewarding, and just it's so fun, and it's such a proud moment for the brand, and it's just, yeah, it's fun. It's a
Yeah,
lot
the
of fun.
best feeling, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And then actually this maybe I also want to ask you about is the global aspect of your role.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
you're getting to obviously work in your own market, which is the
Yeah.
US market, but you're also launching in other markets, which I
Uh-huh.
imagine while there's overlap, that there's a lot of nuances that goes into that.
Yeah.
So how do you approach those different launches when you're kind of going to an entirely new market
Yeah.
and expanding globally?
It's tough because it's not a one size fits all. So just because something works in the US doesn't always mean it's going to work abroad. Luckily, we do have great relationships with our retailers in other countries. They really help guide us on, what's going to work. And it's also, the biggest piece of it is relationship building and building those relationships with a new retailer as well, because it all comes down to negotiations. How much space are we going to get? How much exposure are we going to get at launch? A lot of that is defined by the relationship you build and like all the negotiations that sort of surround that. So, and then also just making sure we're putting products at the forefront that are going to be relevant for the market. We have a lot of products and they're all amazing, but like, certain markets, some categories aren't as big, so like they may not work as well. So, maybe we don't prioritize, putting everything we have in our entire collection onto a shelf. And also it's a little tricky with space now too, because we are getting so big. And then we just want to make sure we're doing things that are relevant for the country we're in. So whether it be out of home, where are we sort of like catching those customers? Like where are people kind of like moving around the most? Is it in a metro station? Is it, on a big street? Is it at a bus stop? Catching them where they are. And then just also making sure that the experience they're getting inside their local Sephora has a through line through the entire world. So what we look like in the US and, what the brand sort of represents in the US, you walk into a Sephora in London and you're like, okay, this is Summer Fridays. We're not, taking on new personalities in every market. It's more just making sure we're tailoring our product assortment to be super relevant, but we still look like we are the same brand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, such a fun role. You're getting to touch so many different things. Definitely want to kind of come back to your role at Summer Fridays, but I want to take a step back.
Yeah.
And I want to go talk about your start into the industry. I know I briefly mentioned when I introduced you that you've worked at lots of different beauty brands, and it's been really cool to see where your career has kind of niched into. Yes. You started at, well, you can let me know where you want to start because I've got some notes here, but what do you feel like is kind of your break into the beauty industry?
It was definitely my first job, which was at an advertising agency in New York called Beauty at Gotham, and they are the agency on record for Maybelline and for Essie. And so, that was my first like foray into beauty. And to be honest, I wasn't even trying to get into beauty. I kind of just landed there.
How?
So I got an internship at Campbell Ewald, first right out of college. So it was like a post-grad internship for 3 months. And the goal is to hire at the end. So like, you do a good job over the summer, they'll give you a full-time role at the end. So unfortunately they didn't have a full-time role for me, but they circulated my resume out to their greater network. And one of their partner agencies was McCann Erickson, and McCann set up Beauty at Gotham to be sort of its Maybelline owner, because McCann was doing, I believe at the time they were doing all the advertising for L'Oreal Paris, and L'Oreal owns both L'Oreal Paris, obviously, and Maybelline, and they basically wanted McCann to set up a separate entity to own the advertising for Maybelline. So that agency sort of reached out. It all worked out. I started there as an assistant account executive. In 2014, so it was a long time ago. Sorry, I'm trying to rewind in my head. Yeah, it's kind of hard. But I started there, and I was working on Maybelline lip products, and then Essie. Essie was really fun because that was sort of like the height of Essie when they had new collections every season, and the naming was super fun. And it was really cool, and it was a really good sort of first entrance into beauty. I mean, Maybelline is probably one of the more iconic beauty brands in the United States. It's been around forever. It's got such global outreach. It's in pretty much every country in the world. When people hear maybe it's Maybelline, they know,
Yes.
The jingle is very, very
iconic.
Yes, it's very iconic. So it was really interesting to sort of work on it from that perspective, because once the brand kicks off a project with the agency, the product is done. They just need help with the launch strategy. So sort of that 360 plan. And so we were doing, which is going to sound wild, we were doing all the TV and print ads.
Oh my goodness.
Vintage, right? This is 11 years ago.
That's not even that long ago.
No,
which is
I know.
crazy.
It's the craziest thing. And, social wasn't even something that was like on our minds really either. Yeah. Just the way things have shifted so much, and the way people, advertise and market things is completely different. But yes, very vintage TV and print. And so we would work on all the out-of-home campaigns, the commercials, print ads, everything that sort of came in under that realm. So we, after being there for about a year and a half, I think I was kind of getting to the point where I was like, I wanna see what happens on the brand side. Like, I wanna, like, know what goes on behind these products. By the time I see them, they're already done. They're
Mhm.
already done. Here's the messaging, these are the shades, this is what's happening. And I just really thought that there was, like, a missing piece there for me. And so I was lucky enough to land my first brand job at Fresh, which was the number one, skincare brand at Sephora at the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it was
Oh my
Fresh was
gosh.
huge, and it was such an honor to work there, and I always like to say I grew up at Fresh,
Aw.
because it was my first brand job. And the founders are amazing, and the people were just like lovely. And so I started off on the global promotional marketing. So I was working specifically on like holiday sets, limited edition products. They did a lot of them. They would do, celebrate 20 years of soy face cleanser and do a jumbo soy face cleanser with like limited edition artwork on it. So I would work on those types of things. So anything that was like a promotion on top of our existing product collection. But still sort of felt like there was that gap. So I was able, after probably about a year, I think I was able to swap over to the product side. So I was working in product marketing on their iconic skincare franchises. So I worked on Black Tea, Rose, Creme Ancienne. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the way Fresh sort of
I'm not super
breaks.
familiar.
So they basically
Okay.
break all of their product franchises into the core ingredient that's driving them. So the Black
Oh.
Tea collection, Black Tea,
Oh.
Rose. Creme Ancienne was this really sort of luxury line they still have, where it's made by monks in a monastery, which is kind of wild. Yeah,
Really?
it's really crazy. People don't know about it because it's definitely at that more luxury price point, so
Yeah.
more of a niche customer, but a really beautiful story
Oh my
to it.
goodness.
Yeah.
I know Rose. I feel
Yeah.
like that's the most.
Yes. Yeah. The
Yeah.
rose face mask was like the most iconic face mask when I was working
Yes.
there.
I
Yeah.
remember the mask and also the mist.
Yes. The rose mist. Yep.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. I wanted to ask you about this because I know you've got a lot of experience on the product marketing side.
Yes. Yeah.
But at least for me, when I think product marketing, I jump to tech. Like
Yeah.
I jump to tech
Yeah,
product
yeah.
marketing. So what does product marketing look like in the beauty industry?
Yeah. So, from a beauty perspective, how I always like to define product marketing is the product marketing team really defines what the product is going to be, what that experience is going to look like, what the benefits are, basically that full 360 customer experience from the second they pull the jar off their shelf to putting it on their face to sort of the benefits they're trying to see, and just that full experience. But we are not scientists and we are not chemists. So we can't make the product, but we can write the strategy behind it and sort of like dictate what that experience will be. But the product development team actually makes it. So there's the scientists that are actually doing the formulations, and then you have engineers that are making the packaging. So you're kind of driving the strategy behind all of that. You're just not actually executing it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
was this a new challenge for you stepping onto the product marketing
Yes.
side? How did you kind of grow during that time?
Yeah, and it was a really exciting time for the brand. Globally, we were doing so well and growing really fast. And I think we basically my team would look at our calendars for years to come. So we would look at, I think when I left in 2019, we were working on 2023. So we would work quite a
That
ways
far in
out. Yeah,
advance?
like
Oh
3 to 4 years,
my
because
gosh.
development takes quite some time.
Wow.
So we were working really far in advance. So we, just plan out the new products that we would pulse every year and sort of like what that strategy was. And if we weren't going to launch something new during a certain month, like how are we re-promoting our existing products? So when I was there, the biggest thing was soy face cleanser and black tea kombucha essence. So it was like every clean face, every fresh face it was, but every clean face should start with a cleanser and essence, and those should be kind of your bread and butter products.
Mm,
So it was really just kind of like making that make sense for the customer, and also getting them excited about newness, because at the time, black tea was really big for Fresh, and also sugar lip treatment was basically like the modern day lip butter balm,
yes.
back in the day. And so we would launch new shades every year and people would be so excited, and there'd be holiday shades and summer shades, and it was something to really engage with our customer and get them excited and make them want to repurchase, another shade of sugar lip treatment. And so, my role really focused a lot on defining sort of, okay, what's the story behind the product and why does it fit with the brand? So why would Fresh launch this? And a lot of it came down to the storytelling that was driven by the founders. And so a lot of, their stories were woven into the ingredients and the why behind a lot of the products. So, we did a lot of work in defining, okay, why does it make sense to launch the black tea eye serum? Or, why does it make sense to launch the rose overnight face mask? Why are we doing this? What is the missing step that the customer needs that this product will fill? And why should they buy another rose product? Why should they buy another black tea product? And so really helping to kind of map out why that customer needed something additional is very challenging, but very fun. And I'm such a product junkie. I've tried everything in the books. I swear to you, I spent between 2015 and 2021 just putting every single product from every single brand onto my face.
Oh my goodness.
Which is probably why
I was
I
about
have
to say,
such...
did that like react to your face at first? Trying
I
so
do
many
have
different
sensitive
things?
skin now, so it probably, in the long run, I could have worked on that a little bit better. But
You've got great skin, though.
you.
Looking at you, your skin
Thank
is
you.
glowing.
Thank you. Yes, it was definitely tricky, but no, it was so important to kind of like ground everything at Fresh into the why behind it. And so we were able to really use the founder stories to kind of like help bridge that gap to the customer. And so I was there for 3 years, and I was starting to think about, okay, what's my next move? I had been in New York for 5 years, and there had been this kind of wave of people being like, New York or nowhere. And I think I was riding that wave for a little bit, and then I was like, wait, but I don't know if I can say New York or nowhere because I never lived anywhere besides where I'm from. So like maybe I need to try something else and I can always come back. And, around the same time, what worked out super well is if you are a great employee within LVMH, which owns Fresh, they want to keep you in the family. So they give you opportunities to potentially explore other brands, and it's celebrated. It's not like a secretive sort of scary thing. It's celebrated, and it's like this, we're giving this employee an opportunity to do something different, but still stay within the family.
Yeah, that's amazing to be able to have a brand that's like, we want to encourage that curiosity and growth.
Exactly. So that's what led me to Benefit, and also moved me over to San Francisco. So Benefit is such an iconic brand.
Yes.
I mean, between how long they've been around, they've really, made San Francisco part of their identity, and just the sheer amount of products they have is crazy. And their founding stories are amazing, and they're fun. They're very, very fun, and it was very different from Fresh too. And it was also allowed me to sort of see the color side of things, so the makeup piece. And so I started on a team that was traditionally more developers, so people that are more like product development versus marketing. And I kind of paved my way with a new role to help sort of define the strategy behind net new launches for them. So they were all kind of working on the actual products, and I was, mapping out, okay, we'll do this big overhaul of, for example, one of the biggest projects I worked on was their box of powder relaunch. So you probably know Hoola.
Yes,
the bronzer.
yes.
It's iconic. Yeah.
Yes, I honestly still have the one that I bought in middle school, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, they last forever. But that was one of the things, was they hadn't refreshed their box of powders in a long time. And they wanted to sort of like, kind of reanimate them. And I believe they look very different now too. They redid the packaging a bit. I think they took the brush out. So they're just a little bit different, but it was a way to kind of modernize them, which, every brand should hit a point where it's like, okay, how can we modernize these products? You should never have a one size fits all strategy throughout your entire life, because then how are you changing with the times, Yeah. And it's really a way to kind of look within and say, okay, this is really working for us, but maybe we tweak this and maybe we'll be able to capture, 15 more customers that way.
Yeah.
And so it's little things that it's important to think about as the years go on, and as you're growing, it's you kind of have to grow within yourself, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So was that your main focus, was relaunching existing products?
No, sort of mapping out more strategic ways for them to launch new collections.
Okay.
So the box of powder was probably the biggest project, but
Okay.
what that was going to look like, we were also kind of exploring some like complexion launches and items like that, and mascaras, and different ways for them to do different mascaras. And then one of the other sort of key pillars that I was focused on was having them win in China more, and that was such a big strategy pre-COVID. That was a huge strategy for a lot of beauty brands, because not only was the China market booming for beauty brands internally, like within the country itself, but they were also there was a lot more Chinese tourists than there are. I believe it's picked up again now, but post COVID, it had slowed down a little bit. But Chinese tourists were in every single market, so it was like, how do we cater to them to want to purchase products within their own market, but also externally as well?
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge for sure, because Benefit had been around in China for a while, and just looking at different ways for them to sort of appeal to that customer and make themselves very relevant within the region.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to keep going to your other roles as well, but I want to pause for a second, because you are really starting to niche in your career at this point, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
We're starting to see, okay, the product side, the
Yeah.
global side, which obviously I know that you still do at Summer Fridays. So what about this specific role really excited you, that made you want to build your career here?
I think because it hadn't been defined yet. So I think it was, it was something that new, and me and the leader of the team had sort of like defined, okay, this is what it's going to look like. And it definitely evolved as the year. I only spent about a year there. As it turned out, I love being at small brands, and Benefit is huge. And so for me, I'm more comfortable in an environment that's a little bit smaller, where I can kind of touch more things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that year, the role even evolved from day 1 to day 365 when I left. So, it was more just about finding what worked, and and being like, okay, I would like to be involved in this, and I the leader of that team was very flexible in terms of like how we were gonna define it. So yeah, it just, the fact that I could sort of build the path that I wanted to there was something that was really appealing to me.
And then you went over to Tatcha next.
I did.
Again, in product marketing.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So the product marketing team did not exist at Tatcha prior.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. So it was net new.
So similar to your previous experience, that tied in really well.
Yeah. And so I think this also, I took more traditional product marketing methods from Fresh and sort of like brought them over to Tatcha, but obviously didn't come in there being like, oh, we need to do everything X, Y, and Z way, but just, looking at different processes that had worked well, different ways that I could sort of help guide things from the get-go of like kicking, basically inception of like a new product all the way till launch. And Tatcha's an amazing brand. It's still to this day, my ride or die skincare products.
It actually is one of my favorites too. I use their entire, I think it's the dewy, all the purple products.
Yeah.
I think I own all of them.
They're amazing. I don't know if you've tried their new dewy milk.
No.
Oh, it's great.
Wait, is that
it's more like a little bit more liquidy. It's in a pump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be like a base milk like the Ilia or the Rhode, or
nope,
no?
It's a moisturizer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I've not tried that one yet.
I've been using it, and actually I'm really dry, and it works
I'm also
really
dry, which is why I use that line.
I do use the Jet Lag dehydration serum underneath it, so give my face a good hydrating layer before that goes on.
Okay, you'll have to try that combo.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
just wheeling and dealing over here. But yeah, so at Tatcha, what was really interesting is they had sort of that cultural aspect to it. So it was the heritage of Japan, which is what inspired the founder to sort of launch the brand. And so everything that we were sort of planning to launch had to have that Japanese story to it. So we had to make sure there was basically, we always tried to have a Japanese word associated with each launch that sort of embodied what the product did, and sort of some sort of Japanese ritual that it represented. And really, making sure like was basically bringing modernized Japanese, traditional methods of beauty and modernizing them for the U.S. customer, which is really interesting because a lot, I think when it launched and also when I was there, a lot of the hype was around K-beauty at the time and not J-beauty yet. So, very interesting. But I worked on a lot of really exciting products there. I'm shameless, but the Indigo Overnight Repair was probably my best product that I still use to this day.
It's also one I've used in the past as well.
It's amazing.
Yes,
Yes. Yep. That
oh my
is
goodness.
one of my babies.
Can you walk us through like maybe that'd be a good example to walk us through of like you're mentioning product marketing and you're kind of dropping some little hints here on what goes into that. But let's say that you're working with Tatcha, they I'm sure already have this idea and are developing this product. So what does your role look like? Like when do you step in, and maybe kind of like high level, what is your creative process for that?
So I would say we can use indigo overnight repair as kind of a very specific example, but at the time slugging was a huge thing people were doing on Instagram. Do you remember what slugging was?
No, can you share?
So people would coat their faces in Aquaphor overnight.
Oh my gosh, I do remember this. Yes, I remember this.
So a lot of brands were launching slugging products. And so here's another really interesting aspect of product marketing is you have to address trends. You can't just ignore a trend, but you have to address it in a way that makes sense for your brand and is there to live long term. So slugging, nobody talks about it anymore. I mean, no one's slugging anymore. Yeah. So if we had come out with a product that was called slugging, or, it made some reference to it in 2025, it wouldn't be relevant anymore. But what we did instead was we created the Indigo Overnight Repair, which was this beautiful sort of silky, hydrating formula that feels thick when you apply it, but it kind of absorbs really nicely. So it's not leaving like a film or anything on your face, but it's really, really hydrating, and it's meant for overnight. So that was sort of the gap in the Tatcha portfolio at the time, was a product moisturizer specifically that was meant for overnight repair. So you may not know this, but your skin, while your body is resting, your skin is also repairing itself. So it's going through its own sort of REM cycle, if you will.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is why it's really important. It's almost like when you wake up, you're a bit dehydrated, so it's important to drink water first thing in the morning. Your skin also needs that overnight hydration, so it's really important to use those like thicker products at night. So Indigo Overnight Repair was sort of our response to slugging, and also just that overnight repair story. And so the storytelling behind it was great. It was really fun to talk about like repair as a word within sort of Japanese culture, but also repair as a word that's relevant to customers. Like we all kind of look at our skin and,
we want to repair it.
Yes. It's a word that really resonates with people, and you understand what it means. And, we had already built kind of a cult following on our Indigo collection. So, people kind of saw it and knew, okay, great for sensitive skin. And so that was something that was, top of mind as we're developing the Indigo Overnight Repair, is using ingredients that are going to work for sensitive skin, but also, National Eczema Seal approval as well. So making sure we get that. And it was just, it was really fun to work on, and it was fun to define what, our newness, our responses to trends were, but also what newness we would have within each category that made sense for the brand.
Yeah, I love that example of wanting to be part of a trend, but also build a product that would last well beyond that.
Yes.
I was actually talking about this with friends of just like, we're seeing things go viral so quickly now. And of course, as a brand, like you want to take advantage of a viral moment. Like you said, you can't maybe like not address it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to come up with a product that's not going to last beyond that moment. And so I think that's such a great example of getting to tie into something that's a trend, but also that will last much longer and still be an incredible product, even when that trend isn't there anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of product marketing, is identifying what trend is here to stay and what trend is going to be gone in a year. Because, I mean, you think about all the beauty trends from the last 10 years.
So many.
Yeah. And a lot of them you don't even remember what they are because it's been so long.
Slugging, I didn't know.
Slugging. It's been, I think that was 2020. That sounds right in my head, 2020.
Yeah. Well, any advice there then on figuring out which trends are here to stay?
I think the ones that make sense, the ones that are here to stay, I have no concept, honestly. It's so hard to predict. But I would say the ones that are grounded in something that feels doable for the customer. So it's not creating 10 extra steps like the traditional K-beauty 13-step routine.
Yeah.
It's something that feels easy for the customer. It's easy to understand, because at the end of the day, like we, specifically in the beauty industry, we live and breathe this stuff. And we have to remember that because we understand something doesn't mean your average customer will understand it. So, making sure people understand like what certain products or what certain rituals will do for their skin and why it would make sense for them to incorporate it into their routine. If it's like this
Mhm.
crazy product that's like, sure, like, what's coming top of mind right now is those bubble masks. Do you remember those?
No.
It was like a foamy, it was almost like a mask that you put on and it was foamy and bubbly.
Oh my, okay, I missed this one, but oh
Okay,
my
yes. I think
goodness.
it was another K-beauty trend, actually,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So that lasted 5 minutes, but, it's like one of those that, like, it's, like, quirky and it's fun and
Yeah.
it's kinda kitschy, but, you do it once and you're like, "Okay, I'm good. I don't need to, continue doing that as part of my everyday
Yeah.
skincare routine," but, yeah, it's just something I think that feels a little bit more long term. Like, for example, slugging could have been something if it weren't so intense in terms of, like, the aquaphor on the face and, like, just the way people were applying it.
Mhm.
But finding a way to just capitalize on that, but in a way that makes sense, you know?
Mhm. It's interesting, especially in the beauty space, because there are so many trends. And I feel like
Mhm.
all of us, of course, want like the secret
Yeah.
routine or the secret product or
Yeah.
the hack that no one knew about that's going to give you this gorgeous skin
Yeah.
overnight. But obviously, nothing in
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
is like that.
Exactly.
But it is always, and now even me, I really wasn't somebody that was really into beauty or makeup, and recently I've gotten more into the skincare side of
Yeah.
things, and I always think it's so fun, and I'm always so curious to
Yeah.
I'll watch the video on maybe like slugging, for example. I might not try it, but like I think it's always so interesting
Yeah.
just to see how quickly those trends come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come and they go.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you spent some time at Tatcha,
Yes.
and then you went over to Biosin. So tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So Biossance, the big appeal there was, one, they didn't have a product marketing team, so it was another place that I could kind
So
of
is this
forge
your
my path. Yeah,
specialty?
this is my specialty. This is what I
Yes,
do.
I love it.
So I could kind of forge that path for them, but also I had never worked for a brand that was so science forward and so, like, they had their own labs within their office building, which was crazy. I'd never
Oh,
been
wow.
anywhere like that before.
Also, are you still in San Francisco at this point, or have we
Yes,
moved?
still in San Francisco.
Okay,
Yes, I
okay,
lived a lot of lives in
okay,
SF.
okay.
Yes. So, yeah, Biossance was super interesting because they were basically making everything within their office building. They would obviously have to send it out to do a scale up for actual production, but all of the mixing was happening in the building.
Wow, that's so rare.
Yeah, very rare.
Yeah.
And they were owned by a biotechnology company called Amyris, which was basically Amyris invented the malaria vaccine years
Oh,
and years ago,
wow.
decades ago. But they also invented an ingredient, squalane, which I'm sure you're very
Yes,
familiar with.
that's I think the Biosin's like quintessential
Yes,
product.
because
Yes.
Amyris invented a way to produce it sustainably. So prior to Amyris being founded, people were harvesting squalane from shark liver. Yeah.
What?
Yep.
No
And killing a
way.
lot of sharks. And yeah, sure, sharks are scary, but they're really important for
No.
the ocean's
Oh my
ecosystems.
gosh.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yep. So that was where squalene traditionally came from. So Amyris comes along and they find that you can produce squalene from sugarcane.
Really?
And the great thing about sugarcane, it takes no water to grow. It's basically grows like a weed. Like, it doesn't need a lot of water. It's easy to grow on different landscapes. And so they basically made squalene from sugarcane.
Wow.
Mind blown.
That
Right?
mind literally blown. It's
Yeah.
actually really interesting that you mentioned that, because I feel like with skincare too, I do think it's important that the ingredients that are being sourced are sustainable, and we might not always think of that. Like, you might not know when you're buying, like, that's a very
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah.
I make you think twice the next time you pick it up.
Mhm.
But that's so interesting to hear that, and like so incredible to be able to find a solution like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a great ingredient. Your skin basically produces squalane already, so it's just replenishing that. And yeah, it made for really amazing products at Biossance. And so yeah, they did not have a product marketing team, so I really helped define sort of their reasoning for launching products. So, kind of creating this process where it's like, okay, I think there were 3 pillars I was thinking about. One was the sustainability piece, because that was really big for them. So was it the squalene piece? Was it the packaging, being sustainable, and, anything that had to do with sort of like the life cycle of the product. And then also just like, why were we launching it? What's that gap in the customer's routine, and what's that gap in our internal portfolio? You never want to have 15 different moisturizers that basically all do the same thing. No one's ever going to be able to tell, and so it's important to have sort of a nice curated assortment that has products that people understand and also know that they can go to for, okay, my skin is a little bit extra oily in the summer. I'm going to go for that lighter gel cream in the summer. Okay, in the winter, I'm really, really dry. I'm going to pick up my thicker moisturizer. So it was helping them sort of define that and map that out. And then also, what are the new products that we're launching? So what makes sense for the brand? How do we continue to promote our existing core products? So for Biossance, the squalene and rose oil. I don't know if you ever tried their rose face oil.
I have not.
Amazing.
Oh,
It's really great. And
okay.
it's really nice because it's super light face oil. Face oils can be a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
I totally know that,
Yeah.
but it's really lightweight. It's a beautiful product. It's still to this day my favorite face oil.
I have to
So
go back to Sephora after this
yeah,
episode
yeah.
now. Okay, well, on a personal note for you, because you're sharing this trend here of you going to brands and helping them launch their
Mhm.
product marketing,
Yeah.
why do you think that you are exceptional at this role? Because I imagine you are exceptional. Hearing you talk about it, I can
Mhm.
hear your excitement for it, which I
Yeah.
also imagine makes you really good at what you do. So what do you feel like maybe that you love about this niche, and
Yeah.
like what do you feel like you do really well in it?
A few different things I would say. One is I'm a say yes girl. Like if we need to pivot on something, say yes. If I am taking on, sort of a new role with new criteria, basically new processes, I say yes. And yeah, that's always gotten me really far as being a say yes
I
girl.
love that.
And then also just advocating for myself all the time. I always, I want to know when can I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? Sort of what that path is for improvement. I love feedback. Like I'm not going to learn anything or grow unless I get feedback. And so it's really sort of, identifying, okay, where are some people within the organization that can be those mentors for you? Having a good manager is also key. I had a really great one at Biossance, so who I now work with at Summer Fridays. But it's identifying who those people are and how can they also help you grow and sort of developing that mentorship relationship with them because that's always super key too is like learning and growing from people that you identify as mentors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And then how about why do you think brands don't have a product marketing team until I know maybe you aren't necessarily the reason why they're
Yeah.
starting one, but they didn't have one before and then they're seeing this need and then they want to start doing that. What do you
Yeah.
feel like is the kind of I don't know, the transition there or the thing that kind of makes them be like, wait, we need this role?
I think it's really when a brand hits a certain point of growth where it's like, okay, we're launching multiple products a year now. Whereas sometimes early in a brand's life cycle, they're launching maybe 1 to 2 products a year because you want to build the customer loyalty around existing products before you start, pumping out newness when people don't even know who you are. But as brands grow, as awareness grows, as sales sort of kind of climb, you have to have somebody in that role who's really helping to map out what your product strategy is going to be, not only for one, like I said, existing products, but also for newness too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just such a again, hearing your story and hearing
Mhm.
that is just such a cool space to be in and a
Yeah.
cool spot in beauty marketing.
Yeah.
At this time, because obviously you're mentioning here at Summer Fridays, your role involves a lot of Sephora and retailers. Did it also involve a lot of that when you were at these previous roles, or is that new to your job at Summer
So
Fridays?
there was an aspect of it that I sort of worked with Sephora prior to my current role. So
Hmm.
basically, I was always part of these meetings called In the Kitchen, which is where we basically kind of look at products coming down the pipe for the next like year or two to come. We also do meetings twice a year with them called Market. That's where we bring newness and our marketing strategies for the year. I was always part of those as well. So, you know, that was where it was I got to a certain point with product marketing where I was like, okay, I love this. I've been living and breathing it for almost 10 years at this point. But what's the other side of the coin from it, And like what is actually that sort of connection to the customer from the product? Because for me, it was like, okay, I hand off this beautiful product wrapped up in this beautiful box to, the 360 marketing team and they bring it to life. And that, includes retailers, VIP events, influencer press, all that. But I wasn't seeing a ton of it on the launch side. And so that's when I started to think, okay, I might be ready for a role shift, but how do I do that.
Yeah. Well, tell us. Then you go over to Summer Fridays. So what's next?
So it comes down to advocating for yourself. I mean, there's always a way to sort of weave in your experience to connect it with what you're applying for. So luckily I did know someone at Summer Fridays who had worked with me prior. So, we had that connection, and I really just tried to sell myself from a perspective of like, okay, yes, I've been focused on product for the last almost 10 years, but here's how I think when it comes to the retailer side and when it comes to bringing that product to life within a customer's shelf. Like, I'm always thinking about the customer, but I want to sort of get to that next step where I'm a little bit more customer facing, if that makes sense. And so just advocating for yourself, that's really the biggest thing. Nobody else will do it for you. You have to advocate and ask for more. And I will say my former manager who hired me at Summer Fridays, she really took a chance on me in this role, and I hope I make her proud. But no, it's been going really well, and I feel like, of course there's a learning curve, but if you're hungry for growth and you're hungry to learn, you can learn anything, and that's how I feel when it comes to my own career and also mentoring my team. Is like, I can teach anyone anything, but I can't teach passion, drive, and hunger. I can't. You have to have it. If you don't have it, I can't teach it to you.
I love that. I think those are absolutely passion, drive, hunger. I think that's so great because, especially, I know a lot of young marketing girlies listen to the podcast. And they might be like, well, I don't have enough experience. I don't have this or that. But if you are hardworking, if you're passionate, if you are willing to put in the extra work, then people can teach you, and they will want to teach you because they'll know that investment in their time will pay off in you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah. So you advocated for yourself a bit. You kind of had to sell yourself on a position that you didn't have a lot of experience in. Were you nervous going into that? What did you lean on? Because it is obviously pulling from your past experience, but it is something that is a bit new.
Yeah. I was nervous for sure, but a lot of people always tell me, they're like, you're always just quote unquote cool as a cucumber.
Cool as a cucumber.
Cool as a cucumber. Or my friends like to call me the cool girl. But just because like I try not to show it, but internally I am dying. It's like I am like really, really feeling it. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, do or don't do it. Like I had to just kind of jump in and learn by trial and error. So it was kind of like, okay, we'll try this. Nope, doesn't work. All right, we pivot. And working at a smaller brand like Summer Fridays actually allows you to do that more, which is really nice. But it's more just, kind of being open to learning and learning from mistakes if there are any. And that is how you learn. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I'm not going to sit here and say I never made any. Like, everyone makes them, and you just have to take those learning moments and pivot from there. Whether it's pivoting in a good way, like, okay, we're going to keep doing this, or if it's pivoting like we are never going to do that again. It's all learning, and you just have to be open to what comes to you. When I was originally hired at Summer Fridays, I was supposed to be director of international retail marketing, and day 2, they had some team shifts right before I started, and my manager at the time was like, well, I think it makes sense for you to do North America too. And in true yes girl mentality, I was like, yes, here's another challenge, and that's going to make this role just so much more cohesive and really kind of through line, like I said at the beginning, really pull a through line from North America into all of our other markets. I will say the entire month before we launched Sephora UK, I probably slept a total of 4 hours because I was so nervous. Everything went great, but it was my first time launching a new market. I had worked on certain aspects of new market launches at prior roles, but never really owned that piece of like bringing it to life within stores and planning, the store activations around the launch. I had never done that before. And so it was scary, but it went well. And that's the thing, is like, at the end of the day, you just have to remember, what you're good at, and you're doing the right things. As long as you're doing the right things and you feel like you're getting some sort of win from them, you're in the right path. You're going in the right direction.
I think that's really great advice and really great for people to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, Celeste, well, we have chatted about so much in today's episode. We've gone all over the place. Do you have any last advice you'd like to share with the marketing girlies?
I would just say, I'll repeat, passion, drive, hunger. It's the biggest thing, and it is what makes you wake up every day and be excited to do your job. If you're starting to lose that, it's really going to affect how you show up. And obviously there are days where we all wake up and it's like, oh, I can't go on.
We've all got those.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
never going to be this perfect linear path, but
Mhm.
I think what's really important to remember is why you do this. And a lot of times I think to myself, like, if I can make one woman wake up and feel good about how she looks in the morning without putting any makeup on just because of her skincare ritual, like, I'm doing my job right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, you have to remember those things because there are going to be days where it is hard and it is grueling work. But at the end of the day, if you sort of ground yourself in what brought you there in the first place, it makes everything worth it and sort of like retrains your brain almost to be like, okay, now I'm excited. Here we go.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on Marketing
Yeah.
Girly. It has been absolutely a blast getting to chat today and go through your
Yeah.
beauty marketing career journey.
Yeah. It was great to be here. Thanks for having me.